And welcome back to another video. We've actually had 3 videos made in one weekend. I mean, something's clearly gone wrong. Um, so just like the zombie video, which is the one before this one, I'm going ahead and I'm creating a previous video or previous game, Space Invaders, but adding some enhancements. It's a little bit complicated for what it needs to be. So what I have done is gone ahead and simplified that and just made it a little bit easy to make, added some graphics, some various bits just to sort of improve it slightly. So I'm just doing the usual and added in the libraries, and we'll get straight into it. So we want a bunch of variables. So score, but not soccer. Score. We want the aliens. We want the player character. I need 2 variables, left and right. Then I want one for my alien image and one for my ship image. Got some images in there. I'm just going to put score from the start. Initialize to 0. We should always initialize our variables. You should never leave them. And we're going to load in some pictures. So I've got these again, as usual. I've got these from OpenGameArt. I do recommend creating your own images, but sometimes it's just easy to get other people's stuff, let's be honest. So I've gone ahead and done that. So I'll just load my ship. And then I've got one called sheet. I just need to make sure I've renamed it because it's clearly I've got 2 copies of that. I've downloaded it, so I'll just fix that. And then all we're going to do is load those images like we would for anything else. So we've got alien image, your sheet.png, which is just a bunch of aliens. I'm only using 1 row of this in this tutorial, but if you want to use more than that, you can. And then I've got a little alien spaceship that we've got. Okay, so I'm going to do something weird to start off with. I'm going to change the canvas to be 300 by 400, and I'm going to add in what's called pixelated mode. So pixelated X2. So this is just for making retro style games, which is perfect for this. It does zoom in your canvas, so use that at your own peril. If you don't want your game to be zoomed in, then don't use it. So that's all in. Can't tell anything at the moment. Don't know why it's not liking that. 300, 400, pixelated. No, it's all fine. So let's go on with that. So what we're going to do first is what I'm going to try and do as well is comment this really well. So, or at least comment it, because your code should always be commented. So that's one thing that when you're doing NEAs or coursework or developing, if you don't comment your code, it's going to be really hard to read when you come back to it. So I noticed actually when I was remaking this video, I'm remaking the game, sorry, that there was lots of variables and things that I didn't really know what it did, and it took me a bit of thinking just to figure out what was going on. So just like in the zombie video, got some random numbers, but they're not random. Yeah, you sort of with P5 Play, you sort of have to figure out what each individual image is. So it's a bit of playing around. It's not great, but it is what it is. I mean, it's a fantastic library, so I feel like messing around with some numbers isn't the worst thing in the world. But again, if you draw it yourself rather than stealing it off the internet, then you won't have to worry about that at all. And then, so I'm going to set a collider so it can be controlled, but I want it to be a K collider because I don't want them to hit each other. Because in Space Invaders, we know that the aliens all move together. When they all change directions, they're going to bump into each other, and it doesn't work very well. So we're going to have them as a K collider, so they can only be controlled by the computer. And then we're going to set their velocity to start off as -1. So then what I want to do is add in some animations, because animations are nice. So I'm going to do aliens.spritesheet equals my alien image, and then I'm going to do aliens.add Annies, which is going to be a function, and I'm just going to have move, which is row 1 and frames 3 because there's only 3 frames on that one. And then what I want to do as well is just scale them down. Now I am going to show you something in a minute. Equals 0.2. Nope, the computer's moaning at me for storage space. That's not good. Like that. And then what I'm going to do is do a new aliens.sprite. Now what that should do is it should load something, and we should be able to see something. Okay, so that's our little sprite moving around. So that's working. I'll just put in a clear here. So it doesn't repeat itself like it does. So we've got our aliens working. With that, possibly needs a little bit more width on there, but that's absolutely not a problem. And one thing to do as well is to just do aliens.debug equals true. And what that's going to do is going to allow us to check what the collider is. So you see there, the width is absolutely insane. So what we could do is do aliens.w equals something small. Because see, the height of it is absolutely fine. But there we go. So now down with the collider is probably a little bit too big, a little bit too small. Sorry, but now that box on debug should be roughly around the image, so it makes sense. So let's put it to 30. That'll do. So that means when we hit it with a bullet, it is going to actually hit it. Otherwise, we could have killed all the aliens with one shot because we're hitting through them all. So there we go. It's pretty much there. That'll do. So I can get rid of the debug and get rid of this line here. So that's us debugging our nice little alien. So now we're going to create the player. So we'll do player equals a new sprite. That's going to be spawned in at the width divided by 2, because the way sprites work in P5 Play compared to just normal P5 is they are center aligned or center drawn. So if I say width and 2, height 2, it's going to draw a square down here in the middle. If you set it 0, 0, it means it's going to draw it half off the screen. I know in a few previous videos I've done that. But you see, because I've got this pixelated mode, this rectangle looks a little bit dodgy, looks a bit weird. And that's got it zoomed in to make it look more pixelated, which is quite a cool little feature. So we can do player.image equals the ship image, and then player.scale equals 1.2 because the image is quite small. So let's make it 20% bigger. And now we should have a nice little alien on there, no, ship on there, sorry. And yeah, so now what we can do is we can actually set up our aliens. So set up the group of aliens. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a for loop, which is a count control loop, which means we can essentially choose how many times we loop. So we're just going to do for let I equals 0, I is less than the width of the screen, which means you can change it later on, which is good. It's nice and scalable, divided by the width of the aliens. And then I plus, and then for each of those we're just going to say a new aliens dot sprite, and we're going to do this at I times aliens dot width and 50 down. So let's see if that works. I'm sure it won't. Oh, there we go. Looks pretty good. They're all going to run off the screen, but that's not bad. Let's just should we make them a bit smaller. Make them a bit smaller. It might look a bit nicer. A bit spaced out though. Does it matter? I don't think it does. But because we've done that, we'll just do aliens.debug equals true and just check that those colliders are right. We don't want it to be too big now because we've made them smaller. So, you know what, that's not too bad, but I think we can put that back down to 20. Well, that should mean now that it fits on the screen and looks good. Now, I had a bit of a nightmare. My storage ran out, so I had to. I've carried on the recording, so let's crack on with it. Let's get back to it. So yeah, so where was we? We was changing the size of the aliens. So now we've got that working. It looks nice. We don't need debug anymore. You see, I've got a background on my screen. That's because I got about 7 minutes extra on the video. So there we go. That's back where it was. So we're all back. We've got our aliens. Everything's nice. Now we're going to go to the draw and we're going to set up some functions. We're not necessarily going to do anything with them just yet. So when you're making your draw function, I've said it in the previous video and I'm saying it in this one. Comments are great and really clear names for your functions, because if you think you come back to your game a month later or even a year later or even a couple of days later, how are you going to know what your code does? You're not. So so we're going to say what all functions are going to do, and then we're going to give them really good identifiers. This actually comes up in exams a lot. You know, how do you make a program, or what features of a high-level language like JavaScript or Python give you features that allow you to make the code readable and maintainable. Maintainable meaning you can change it later on. And adding comments in, that's one really valid answer. So function to display the score, and then function to end the game. And then giving your functions, having functions in general is a good practice anyway, which is a good feature of a nice modular program, because it means that you don't have to change anything else in your program because you've got loads of functionality. You can just change that one function or comment it out or do anything you want to stop it from working so you can see what's wrong with it or whatever. So we'll have player movement, because that's a good name. It's really clear what it does. It moves the player. We've got alien movement, because again, that's a good name. We call it shoot bullet, because it makes sense. Display the score, bracket, and then game over. That's a nice little variable. And let's just make sure my comments are spelled correctly. So yes, let's make the alien, not the alien, the spaceship. Let's make it shoot first. So function shoot. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if you press, so kb.presses, you only press it once, otherwise you get like machine gun fire, which is cool, but it sort of breaks the game a bit. It's a bit easy. We're going to make a local variable. Again, local variables are good use of saving memory and things. We don't need the bullet until we press space. So there's no point setting it up at the beginning. So we're going to make a new sprite. So let bullet equals new sprite. We can do player.x, player.y, take away 20 or something or other. We can set the diameter as 5. So we just put one variable, one value rather than two values. That makes it a circle, just 5 by 5 as a circle. And then we're going to do an overlaps. So bullet.overlaps. And then if it overlaps with the aliens, we're going to call a function called kill, which we'll make in a moment. And then let's just set the velocity to be -5. You can change that if you want it to be faster or slower, it's up to you. And that's that function done. We can now make kill. So function kill, and you get two parameters when you use a function overlaps. One is the thing it's touching, so we can say, the thing it is, and the thing it's touching, so bullet and alien. So if we overlap, we're going to remove the bullet, so bullet.remove, and then alien.remove, and then score plus equals 1. Okay, so we can see if that works. It won't, because these functions don't exist. So you see it's crashed there. It's saying play movement's not defined. It's because I've not made them, so I could comment them out, or I could just make some empty functions for now. So I've got player movement like that. I've got function alien movement, and quite often when I'm developing or making a game or doing a video or whatever I'm doing, I just make the functions that I know I'm going to need, like shooting and things like that. So I've got function display score, and then function game over. So now, even though these do nothing, my game will still run, hopefully. As I spelled something wrong. I think I have spelled something wrong. I missed off shoot bullet, so we'll do that in there. So function shoot bullet, I missed one off. And now I actually should be able to shoot a bullet, and I should be able to kill something. Now, it doesn't seem like anything's working because I've not put in space. I've said I pressed something, but I've not said what. So now, program should run. So you'll load the images in every time. Repet's been a little bit slow. If it does do that, sometimes you just need to give it a bit of a push, so you can also run it in a new window as well. Sometimes this sort of forces it to work. So I press space. Nothing seems to be working. So if keyboard.presses space, and it's because I called it shoot bullet. Always helps to call your functions what you've actually said they're going to be. So it's going to load up. It's called shoot bullet. Is it calling? There's no errors. I press in space, it makes a bullet. It calls the right function. Let's just be a little bit cheeky just do bullet.diameter equals 50, just so it's really big. And it's all calling, right? So I don't see any problems. Nothing does seem to be happening though, which is good. Player has got an X and Y. I can't move or anything. So it should be working. So what we can do, so even though it's not worked, we can check if it's actually firing. So we can say pressed space like that. So it's another good feature using debug commands. So console.log for us could be print in Python. And you see there, I'm pressing space and nothing is happening. And I've called it the right name, it's in the right place. So there's not really a reason why that shouldn't fire. So we can just check that the function is being called at all. So it should lag the game out and it'll spam the screen if it's working. But you see it's not. Okay, so that's something interesting. Because it should be, there's no reason why it wouldn't call that function. I can't think of anything off the top of my head as to why that wouldn't work. So let's debug it, let's find out what's going on. Now if anyone can figure out what I did wrong, it's quite an easy one. I've got two functions called shoot bullet. So it's freaking that out. So what we can do now is delete that, which I've done. And then now I've got a big bullet that I can fire out. So that's way too big. So I can put it back down to 5 and get rid of this console.log. And as far as I'm aware now, it's working. So that was just me just being a bit careless. Probably because I already got that far in the video and then I had to start again. So there we go. So shooting bullets working. So that's excellent. That's doing really well so far. The kill function's working. So now we'll do a nice easy one. The movement for the player. So if keyboard.pressing, because we want it to be pressing rather than presses, otherwise you have to keep pressing A to move, which we don't want. We'll do player.vel.x equals -2. We'll do an else if, so we can just copy that and do else. If we're pressing, let's just get rid of the spaces. If we're pressing D, go into 2, else player.vel.x equals 0. So now I should be able to move left and right on my screen once it loads. It's been very slow today. The only reason it wouldn't work is if there's an error. There's not an error. I know it works because that code's fine. I can't see anything that would trouble it. I think it's just Replit being a little bit slow. Oh, I'm lying to you. I put a dot there like a sausage. So let's just get rid of that dot there. And I'll take it all back. There was something wrong. So that's why it wasn't running. And then now I can move left and right and shoot some bullets and kill some aliens and get a score going up. So that's excellent. We'll do some easy stuff now. So we'll just display the score. So we can just do fill, white. We're going to do the text size. We'll do this first just because I know it's nice and easy. We'll do the last part, which is more difficult. And we'll say the score plus my score. We'll do that at 10 and 20. So we should see the score. And then what we're going to do is, whilst that's loading, we're going to do for A of aliens. This is a for each loop, essentially. We're going to say if A dot collides with the player. So if A dot collides player, or A dot Y is greater than the height of the screen, all we're going to do is we're just going to stop the game from working. So we're just going to do no loop like that. And now we can get into the final bit. Now we're going to use this for loop a lot in this next bit. So I'm going to copy that so I can use it again. Now I had some functions at the start, some variables, sorry, called left and right. So what we're going to do is we're going to set these. So right equals false, left equals false, like that. Now we're going to loop through all the aliens in the group, like that. And now we've got a bit of processing we need to do. So we need to check. Now I'm going to use floor to round it down. A.x is the width. Okay, so if one of the aliens touches this part of the screen, we're going to say that go left equals true. So they go this way. Otherwise, if rounding down a dot x equals 0, so it's on the left side, we're going to set right equals true. Okay. So now we've got that. We're going to use the same loop, but we're going to do it. We're going to reinitialize it. So we're going to go through it again. So we're going to have quite a few loops. And that, what we're going to do is we're going to say if the variable right equals true. So we just say if right a dot y. So we might have to change this a little bit because the height is quite a big value at the moment, so that might be too much. So we can change it later on. Then a dot vel dot x times equals -1. Now that's going to do is whatever the value we set at the start, it's just going to flick it between a minus and a plus. So it's going to go left or right. So that's the right code working, which means we can copy it again, paste it in there, and then say left. Okay, it's exactly the same code. Probably a more efficient way of doing it, but what should happen now, provided there's no mistakes, it seems to have run down really, really quickly. So I think that's because, let's just do aliens.h equals 20, so that's going to be a lot smaller now. And it's working just like it should. And you see it stopped me. I'm trying to press A and D, and it's paused the game. So I think they're a little bit quick, but I also think we've got too many sprites. So what we could also do is just do something like change the for loop to 5. We have 5 aliens now. I think it's still going to be too quick, but I think that's perfect. Less scalable, but we can just change that. Obviously, you can add your own code in to make it so that more aliens are there, or once you kill them all, more spawn. You can just run the loop again. One thing we could do as well is we could also make multiple rows of aliens. So one way of doing that is we could do a nested for loop. So for let j equals 1, let's say j is less than 3, j++, and then instead of doing it at 50, we can do it at j times 50. Hopefully this will work. And we should have now a couple of rows of aliens, unless I've made a mistake. There we go. So we've got 2 rows of aliens now. So if I want to increase that to 3, I can just increase that number. Obviously, I can change this as well to be aliens.h as well, so they're not spread out. I don't know if it'll be a bit too bunched up now, but there you go. So then I've got lots of rows of aliens. They're going to shift down all together. They're animated. We're moving. We're showing the score. It's all pixelated and looks nice. And there we go. So I hope that was nice and easy for you all. Hopefully it's a lot better than the first video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.